Hello and welcome to another round of Championship predictions sponsored by Omicron. Let's have a quick recap of what happened on Boxing Day because there weren't many Championship fixtures. There were loads, obviously, only 4 games survived. Huddersfield 3, Blackpool 2, Middlesbrough 2, Forest 0. And then on Monday, Derby 1, West Brom 0, which gave me 3 points. The only perfect score out of the 4. And QPR 0, Bournemouth 1. It's a 1 point each for me and Cody. Obviously, the rest were all called off. Hull's game against Blackburn was called off 2 hours before kickoff, which is a pain in the backside. So let's go on with match day 25. Another midweek predictions, 2 days after the Boxing Day and the 27th. At the present time of recording, it is 12:38 on the Tuesday. That we have Swansea versus Luton, Birmingham versus Peterborough, Sheffield United versus Hull, Reading versus Fulham, and West Brom versus Preston, all called off. Right, let's start off with Blackburn versus Barnsley. Blackburn made that long trip to Hull and didn't get into the ground in the end. Obviously, Barnsley didn't play either.
Yeah, so it makes it very easy to predict, doesn't it? I mean, all we can go on is Blackburn had won 5 in a row. Barnsley hadn't won in the last 6. They haven't had a new manager bounce, but to be fair to them, they'd looked a lot better defensively. Yes, they had the defeat at Preston, affected by another club's new manager bounce there, but only 1 goal conceded in the other 3 games around that. Blackburn, though, it's 5 clean sheets in a row, which is arguably more important than the fact that they're winning the games and scoring goals. A lot of the attention is on Brereton Diaz. Probably not good for them with January around the corner, but defensively, they've been more solid than I've seen Blackburn look in many a year. They could, if a massive goal difference swing comes, go up to second, but that's not going to happen. I do think they're going to win, though. I think Barnsley will play for a 0-0. I think they'll try and keep it tight. I'm not sure 0-0 is going to be enough for them, but they're not going to get it anyway. I'm going to go for Blackburn 2, Barnsley 0. I was tempted to go big, but I'm going to stay cautious.
I'm going to go big, only by 1 more. I'm going to go 3-0 to Blackburn. Obviously, yeah, you said the clean sheets. I've now come into effect. They're not considered sloppy goals. They're scoring for fun now as well. Obviously, Brereton Diaz is out of contract at the end of the season. So could they use the money up to sell Brereton Diaz? I think they would. So, yeah. 3-0 Blackburn. Brereton Diaz is going to score 2 and Dolan the other one. Right, next up, it's Blackpool versus Middlesbrough. These 2 teams played. Middlesbrough won 2-0 at home to Nottingham Forest. It was a Christmas gift for them. And Blackpool, scored very early, but lost the game 3-2.
Yeah, a little bit of heartbreak for them. I think it was you who talked in the last episode about Blackpool's comeback from conceding an early goal in the game prior, and the opposite happened here. Let's be honest, the red card affected the game. They were 2-1 up. They looked semi-comfortable, but then at the hour mark, it turned on its head. A great brace off the bench for Huddersfield, which we'll get to later, but Blackpool, disappointing. And after that brief glimmer of hope of going back to form against Peterborough the week before, unfortunately back to defeats. Middlesbrough look great under Chris Wilder. Into the playoffs, they're getting players back from injury. And to be fair, Neil Warnock said that, didn't he? Once they get their players back, doesn't matter who's in charge, they'll fly up the league. And he's right. Middlesbrough, in my opinion, are almost shoo-ins for the playoffs at this point. And we've got to say, having games played and having the points is probably a massive advantage here because there are going to be teams playing ridiculous fixture schedules soon. So based on recent form, again, it's very similar to the last game. You have to back Middlesbrough. The Championship will throw up one shock somewhere. I think Blackpool nick a goal. They've scored 5 in the last 2. But Borough have 4 clean sheets in a row. 2-1 Borough.
I think 1-1 in this game. Don't get me wrong, I thought Middlesbrough played very well the first half that I saw. I said that they were gifted the goal by... I don't get it. I really hate when players try to play out from the back and pass blind back to their keeper. But obviously, as you said, quite rightly so, got the points. They played the games, they've got the points, and they're in very good form at the moment. Obviously, we only just played 2 days before. So the players, it depends on obviously who's still fit. Heavy, cold day up north, where it would take out on the players' legs. Blackpool, from that side, it'd be gutted. But I'm going to 1-1 for me. Right, next up, it's Coventry versus Millwall. Neither of these 2 teams played. Coventry are out of form. Millwall draws, loss, win, loss.
Yeah, normal Millwall, basically. Well, the problem is not only did these sides not play on Boxing Day, they didn't play the week before either. So we're talking about 2 sides that have had, what will it have been by then, 18 days off. makes it very hard to predict, doesn't it? Coventry, look, they're just starting to slide down the league. And I know they've got those games in hand, but you've got to think psychologically when you've started that well, what's it going to be like to go into the game in 10th place? And Millwall, they win the game. They're 1 point behind them after what has been an inconsistent year for them. The thing we've seen quite frequently this season is that Millwall are draw specialists. Away from home, they've drawn 5 of their 11 games. Coventry, I know they started brilliantly at home. They won the first 6, but they've won 1 of the 5 since that. And they've drawn 4 of their last 5 games too. So if ever there's a game to predict the Championship's favourite scoreline, it's this one.
I think Coventry might sneak this one late on. I'm going to go 2-1 to them. It's very hard to make these predictions because they haven't played in 2-3 weeks, and it depends on how many players are fit. And we said this back when we first started doing these predictions of how's it going to affect them. And we said this, and with Rotherham last season, that they had to play catch up and it affected them in the end. Maybe the 2-week break might be a good thing for Coventry because they just keep getting draws. So I think they could bounce back with a 2-1 win. Right, next up on Wednesday, it's Bournemouth versus Cardiff. Cardiff didn't play, but Bournemouth did. They beat QPR 1-0, and they were back to their best, really.
Yeah, Bournemouth were really good, to be fair to them. They had the better of the game, and it was a very strong performance. It was a good defensive performance from Bournemouth. We talked about their defensive record away from home for the most part this season, and after, I would say, a pretty sloppy performance against Middlesbrough, they were much better in this one. This is the first game of this match day, though, where we've got to judge what's better to have, a win 2 days ago or a 2.5-week break. And this is where it becomes virtually impossible. So this will have been, 19 days off for Cardiff. A 2-2 draw against Birmingham last time. They've basically been the exciting team to watch in the league, scoring 2 every game, conceding goals galore. If anything, Steve Morrison's made them exciting. I remember seeing an interview with him last week where he said more than half of his squad had COVID, which you have to think is going to have an impact on training, on fitness, on match sharpness. And based on that, combined with Bournemouth's performance, even if they have to rotate, I have to bank on Bournemouth to win. And I'm quite often going to err on the side of the team that have played recently. It might well be come back to haunt me. Bournemouth aren't quite as good at home. They do concede a few more. So I'm going to go for a thriller. I'm going to go for 3-2 to Bournemouth.
I'm expecting the opposite in the thriller. I'm expecting to be a bore. And that's not on Bournemouth or Cardiff itself. I think it's where Cardiff are coming back from a 2-week break. Bournemouth just played 2 days before. Obviously, I said about Borough and Blackpool, it takes it out on their legs. Good, very hard earned victory for Bournemouth against QPR because QPR record at home is pretty good. Got the goal and pretty much stifled them out. So yeah, for me, that's a vintage Bournemouth performance. I think that's what they needed away from home from what we saw from the start of the season. So I'm going to go 1-0 to them. Right, next up at Ashton Gate is Bristol City versus Queen's Park Rangers. Bristol City was supposed to play Luton. That obviously got called off. QPR played their first game in 2 odd weeks and they lost and they weren't good.
Yeah, it was actually over 3 weeks they hadn't played in. And that's the problem I have is they didn't look sharp. They started slowly. And I know it's against a very good Bournemouth side when they're at their best, but it just makes it impossible to judge. I don't know if after 3 weeks off, do you want to then be playing after 2 days rest in between? I'm not sure. Bristol City weren't great against Huddersfield. It was a sucker punch in that one last time out. They were poor against Hull before that, albeit they nicked a late goal. I haven't got a clue with this game. I genuinely haven't got a clue. As a result, I'm going to go for a draw. It's just whether it's 1-1 or 2-2. QPR score and concede goals galore on the road, 17 apiece in 10 games. And Bristol City at home, they're normally quite tight too. I'm going to go 2 apiece because I've got no better idea of what to go for.
I will always say Bristol City's home record is horrendous. And I know they picked up a few victories lately, but it's still pretty bad. And then they don't play obviously, as you keep saying, when Bristol City away, they do play a lot better away from home. My worry for QPR is how much did that game yesterday take out of them? Because it's probably the game that they probably didn't want to have to come back after 2-3 weeks. So I'm going to have to agree on the draw. I'm going to go Championship's favourite scoreline. Right, next up is 2 teams that played on Boxing Day. It is Nottingham Forest versus Huddersfield. Mixed fortunes for either side. Nottingham Forest lost 2-0 to Borough, and Huddersfield picked up a late victory.
Yeah, Huddersfield's going to be very important for them. I think it's a big moment for them psychologically again. And their home record is what's going to be crucial for them this season. So very important. And that's actually 2 games in a row now. They've won by 3-2. Forest were, let's take aside the ridiculous first goal, which I'm sure you'll have your say on. But the performance itself was one of the flattest we've seen under Steve Cooper. No shots on target. Got outplayed by Middlesbrough. Could have arguably conceded a couple more. Maybe not clear-cut chances, but were opened up a number of times. And it's a side that before that had conceded 2 goals in 5 games, which really concerned me. They're one of the few sides that haven't had a break at all. They've played every game straight through, which might be a benefit, but at the moment they look like they're running out of steam. So I'm not sure what to predict here. Forest's home record still isn't great, but it is decent under Steve Cooper. Huddersfield on the road are a complete mixed bag. I'm tempted to sit on the fence again, but I think it will be 1 game too far for Huddersfield. And they've both had 4 days off there, so I don't think the rest will be too bad. Cooper will give them a kick up the backside. I'm going to go for 3-1 to Forest. I think they'll bounce back with goals.
I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go 2-1 to Huddersfield. And that's nothing on Forest or I'm literally picking. I know obviously these 2 teams played. I'm just going for complete shot in the dark, like the 2-2 for Huddersfield last time, which nearly went my way until very late on. But yeah, Huddersfield for me, I think they're going to sneak this one. It literally is all about who's got the legs in them. I think that's how I'm going to literally predict for these ones, because I think COVID does take an effect as well. So yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 to Huddersfield in that one. Anyway, one more game to go. It is Stoke versus Derby County. Derby were getting battered. It obviously a depleted squad, but took advantage of a huge mistake from West Brom.
Yeah, and you've got to give it. I think we've seen a few things this month, which is arguing that Wayne Rooney might be manager of the month, because they are 2 crucial 1-0 home wins. And do you know what? The way Reading are falling, the way that they're going to have games to catch up on, it's not completely out of the question. It's incredibly unlikely, but if they can get an investor in the next couple of weeks, get some transfers in, they've got a small chance, in my opinion. The problem is their away record's dismal. They've only won 1 game on the road all season. They've tried to grit out 0-0 draws and 1-1 draws away from home at times, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that against Stoke. It's a Stoke side that will have had nearly 3 weeks off. It's a Stoke side that generally at home this season have been very good and not conceded many goals. I think they've got, the 3rd best home record in the league after West Brom and Fulham defensively. So I think Stoke will win this game. I think it'll be 1 too far for Derby. I just think if they play their normal game, there's going to be a defensive error at some point. I'm stuck between 1 and 2-0. I'm going to go for 2, because I'm going to go for the old Charlie late goal on the counter, because I think there's going to be some tired legs in that Derby side, because it's virtually the same 14 players every game.
Yeah, that's my worry, and that's why I'm going to pick Stoke to win as well. On obviously how many players are still going to be fit. I said there's another heavy game. Obviously West Brom battered them really, but didn't do enough. Derby held out very well. You have to give them a lot of credit for that. And it's times when we obviously gone against the odds, and they picked up the victory. So, and they also beat Bournemouth at home a few weeks ago. So you have to give them a little bit of credit. I know they're the second lowest goal scorers in the league, but when they do pick up that victory, it's obviously a body of goal, and they worked hard for it. So I have to give them credit on that. Stoke obviously haven't played for a few weeks, so it's very hard to predict what their squad's going to be like half the league here of trying to pick what their squad's going to be like. Apart from Reading's, where there is no squad because most of them are injured. But I think Stoke are going to win this game. I'm going to go by 2-1. Let's have a quick recap what we predicted for matchday 25, the final midweek of 2021. As you can see on the screen, there are a lot of postponements on there. Other than that, I think Blackburn are going to be comfortable against Barnsley. That's what Cody predicted as well. But we've gone a complete opposite on Forest Huddersfield, where I've gone for Huddersfield to win, but he's gone for Forest. That's the game that we'll be keeping an eye on Wednesday. And those are our predictions for matchday 25. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? Let us know in the comment section down below. Give us your predictions for this midweek's action. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at HonestFootball3. And we'll see you next time.